Okay, everybody, welcome to our GLS Friday Focus for February. Good to see you on, and thanks for taking time to pop on to our Friday Focus today. We feel like we have a very important and timely topic on mental health and support for students, staff, leaders, and I think I'm bringing you some good people and noble ideas today to help support around those pivotal topics. So I will welcome our presenters in a minute. I do want to mention the format of our session here, which is pretty darn efficient. I'll give each of them about 8-10 minutes to talk about their topic and offer practical strategies and insights. After that conversation and a few introductions, we will create some space for questions, discussions, and other ideas that maybe you can offer on the topic today. Our Friday Focus is an effort for our team at GLS to not only provide support for our leaders, but leaders across the state and the country on key topics and keep people networked. And obviously, post-pandemic, I think we all realize how important that topic is and the networking. So welcome to our Friday Focus and happy Friday. With that being said, Marty Jimmerson is on our screen today, Superintendent West Branch, and Terry Hemann up at Spencer. They'll be our featured presenters today. And to get started more of the student lens, I'm going to kick our Friday Focus off to Terry.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. And Trent, thanks for having me on today. I appreciate that. You know, I've been a superintendent for 18 years. I'm an Iowa native, but I spent some time in Wisconsin. But I came home, I guess you would say. So I've been a superintendent for 18 years, and I can tell you, I've mastered the craft of how to not take care of yourself as a school administrator. Okay, I think we all have been there, but I've lost plenty of sleep. I've taken issues home with me that I should have left at work. I've put things off till Monday when I should have dealt with them on a Friday. And I've been a really grumpy husband and father, you know, when you go home in that way, you know, that's what we do that's what we end up doing. But all because I have had school issues that I couldn't resolve or couldn't fix. So, but what I found out in over time is, you know, working in a career we always have tough things to deal with. But what I found is that when we have good thought out solutions and systems in place that allow us to leave our job and trust what we've put in place, that I can go home each day, and especially on a Friday, and focus my energy on myself, which makes me better for everybody else that's home in my house or who I'm going to encounter. But there's two things that we have done here in Spencer that I found have been great solutions, help reduce stress and anxiety, not just for me, but for my whole admin team and for others in our system. So one, and I'm not going to spend any time on this one, but is a really good communications plan. We're not good as school administrators, you know, unless we're a communications major or so forth. We don't really have those. That's not in our wheelhouse or our skills. So a good communication plan with people and resources that can help you with the messages that you need to get out. And the one I'm going to talk about today is mental health supports for our system. One of these issues, the issues that has become a big problem for all of us has been our growing behavior issues that we're seeing with some of our youngest kids. Most of those are related to mental health issues that are going on that are not being addressed. And you know, there's many of our districts in Iowa that are struggling to find quality, timely mental health services. So this issue alone, I can tell you, has added a great amount of stress and anxiety for our students, for our parents, for all of our school staff. If you've worked in a school building and you've got one or two students that are your highest behavior needs, you know what I'm talking about. And definitely for our administrators. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of our emotional energy and so forth. So I find it important to share this topic and to talk a little bit about a service that we found to be a great success for our students and for our school community is we work with Classroom Clinic, and I see Sue Galings on the call here today as well. Sue runs Classroom Clinic, and we've had a great partnership, found a great solution for our mental health needs. So I'm going to share a screen if that's okay with everybody, and a couple points that I want to make here. And Trent, I might need you to allow me to do that if I can.
Yep, you should be able to.
Okay. Okay, so you can all see, I believe you can see the title Classroom Clinic, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, so I just want to talk about a couple of key pieces of this. So we started with Classroom Clinic and started our relationship in the summer of 2021. And it was a new service to me. Our Director of Student Services, Pat Hamilton, who's now the superintendent in Mason City, really was the one that went out and was able to find Classroom Clinic and to start a relationship with Sue. But Classroom Clinic provides mental health services to our students, both psychiatric and therapy care, directly in our school buildings. It's been really convenient for our students and families and staff. These appointments happen right in our school buildings. Majority of them are through telehealth. And what we found, especially when we went back and looked after our first year in the data, was that we made quite an impact for students. And I start with some testimonials. Sometimes these come at the end, but I want to share these right away. So one of our parents of a 10-year-old who was struggling with severe anxiety, their comment was, "Kind of completely turn around. This has been a home run." A parent of a 16-year-old 10th grader who was struggling with depression. He went from getting F's in 5 of his 7 classes to now only failing 1 of his classes. So he was completely failing, and through getting some help, through some mental health services, they were able to turn things around. And everybody noticed that for this 10th grader. Statement from a 10-year-old struggling with anxiety. "The best thing about this medicine is that I feel good all the time." I tell you what, that the first time I saw this comment, I thought, wow, that the student knows that 10-year-old can make that statement about themselves really meant a lot. Parents of a 12-year-old, we definitely made the right choice to start our child on medication. There's been such a huge difference in her. And if you work in schools, you know that this is a hard one for parents, especially at the beginning, talking about medication, and sometimes having some outside help to help facilitate that can be really helpful. From one of our administrators, and we would all echo this, "I'm not aware of any situation where we referred someone to Classroom Clinic where they've had to wait more than a week. It's making a difference for our students and families." And Classroom Clinic was the right solution for us. One thing I will say is we worked with a previous mental health provider in our area here in Northwest Iowa, and one of our biggest frustrations was the wait time to get a student the services and even that first appointment to be seen by a mental health therapist. We were waiting in some cases 3 to 4 months for somebody to have a first appointment. And I can tell you, Classroom Clinic, there's a little data later here, but the average wait time was 9 days to be seen. So I'll share a little bit more information. I'll try to be quick here. We had 98 students referred. 85 of those students and their families, sought out and did the service. So 86% of those kids did. Our students, of those 85 students, there were 582 appointments that happened, therapy sessions that happened. Almost 400 were therapy, mental health therapy, 195 were psychiatric. initial eval and follow-up med management. So got students receiving a lot of care. You can see that we had our breakdown of where they were seen. The majority were at pre-K through 5th grade level, 44%, 35% at our middle school level, and then we had 18 of our high school students seen. Total of 85. We're a district of a little over 2,000 students. So, you know, close to that 5% rural of students. Students with anxiety, ADHD, adjustment disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, and then dealing with depression, and then some other things as well. As you can see, average wait time for a student to be seen was 9 days. And that's really so much better than what we were doing before. And the frustration that from students, parents, and staff regarding the amount of time to be seen, that went from a high level of frustration to feeling really good about the time it took for it to get somebody in to be seen. Our satisfaction rate when talking with our parents of children who received services was, you know, really high, either highly satisfied or satisfied, whether it's overall satisfaction, meeting your child's healthcare needs, how they felt during the visit, comfortable, relaxed, and then just knowledge that the provider, that classroom clinic had, everybody felt really good about that. And 100% would use those services again. That's a really quick overview, which I would open up. I don't know if we want to do questions now, Trent, or not, but I will tell you, a school system that was struggling and not having the resources or the professional skills to handle these type of behavior issues that we were seeing in some cases with our youngest students, having classroom clinic and mental health services that we could easily access and easily get kids into in a good amount of time, in a short amount of time, has been a lifesaver for our system and for our families. So, and I share this because I think there's a lot of school districts out there that haven't found what we have found. They haven't found that service yet. It could be all over Iowa, but I can tell you, especially out in rural Iowa, there's a huge need. So I'll stop there, Trent, and we'll see where you want to go from there.
Yeah, no, thank you, Terry. And Classroom Clinic is certainly a great model. I'm going to give Susan and Sue a chance to say hi and share any other insights since we're on the topic. But I bring this to you today as a model as well. They certainly can't serve every district and every family, but it's a great model that's certainly serving Terry and his district very, very well. So thank you for that, and love to see that students are getting their needs met in short time, because I know that's an issue with a lot of districts right now. So fantastic. I don't know, Sue or Susan, if you want to say hi and share anything, but I want to create a little space for you to speak up as well on the topic.
Well, thanks, Trent, for having us, and thanks, Terry, for sharing and being willing to share. I guess I don't want to impose upon the next speaker. I want to make sure the next speaker has plenty of time, and I'm not sure if your format will allow for questions at the end too, but I can be available, offline with anybody as well if they want to, if they have specific questions too. I don't want to, I guess, take any of the time that's available for the next speaker as well.
Yep, no, I appreciate that. We will have some discussion time at the end.
Okay.
You can certainly put your contact information in the chat as well, Sue. Susan, anything you want to add before we transition to our next speaker? No? Okay. I want to offer one statistic before I turn this over to Marty, and this struck me the other day. I was actually reading this article on social media. It was a LinkedIn article, and it's a study from the Workforce Institute. It just struck me, and I thought it was worth sharing today. And the title of the article was actually Mental Health Matters. Listen to this statistic. It said, according to 69% of people, about 70% of people, managers, school managers, or outside of education, had the greatest impact on their mental health it was on par for the same impact that they felt like their spouse or their partner had on their own mental health. And more important, actually, than they felt like their doctor or their therapist was. So I'm certainly not minimizing a therapist or a counselor or anybody else, but I want you to also think about that as usually school leaders that attend these or listen in. The influence that a manager, leader, principal, coaches, superintendent has on people, more important than a therapist or doctor. The topic's important, and the influence and how you address it certainly important for your students and staff and leaders. With that being said, I've had the privilege to work with Marty Jimmerson, who I'll turn it over to next. I think you'll hear a focus here from his capstone capstone doctorate work at Drake that I was familiar with, as well as what he's done to work with the AEA to support school leaders on the important topic as well. Marty, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Trent. Thanks, everybody, for letting me come and talk to you today. My name is Marty Jimmerson, superintendent at West Branch Schools. This is my 5th year at West Branch and 9th year overall as a superintendent. And as Trent alluded to, part of my capstone project, was on school leader social emotional wellness. Where I came from that is coming off of COVID, I was really struggling. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty difficult time for all of us. We saw it in our staff, saw it in our principals. So it was something I wanted to dig into because I feel that if we as school leaders can't take care of ourselves, how are we really gonna help others? So that was the premise of what we did here. Sorry, I lost you here, Trent. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can everybody see that okay? And all right, so social emotional school leader, social emotional wellness, creating supports for school leaders in the Grant Wood Area Education Agency. So again, the whole goal was to provide mental health supports by providing some tiered levels of supports for school leaders that would help prevent burnout and prevent the possibility of them leaving their current jobs. And so I'm going to go ahead and just show some different statistics that were really probably shouldn't be surprising, but at the same time eye-opening as we looked at this. First and foremost, we gave a survey, sent out a survey to all school leaders in the Grant Wood AEA area. We had about 20 to 25% of the recipients actually take the survey, which is pretty high when you look at that when you send surveys out. So again, that just goes to show you how important this subject is to many school leaders. The first question we looked at is, on average, to what extent do you feel stressed at work? Right around 66% of school leaders surveyed said that they felt stress a majority of the time. So again, that's a lot when you look at just the overall day. So then we looked at how would you rate that level of stress? So we had mild, moderate, severe to extreme. 87% of those school leaders surveyed said that the stress that they felt ranged from moderate to severe. So again, it's just not one of those things where you felt a little stress one day. It is a majority of the time that stress is moderate to severe. Some of the symptoms that they experience, and it's probably hard to read that, but irritability, insomnia, prolonged fatigue, oversensitivity, frequent headaches. You started seeing anxieties, depression, and other things. I'm sure we probably all have felt that at some point. But again, those are things that are not good for you, as Terry alluded to. Some of the stressful aspects of the job. What was creating the stress? Staff issues. That should not be a surprise. Student behavior, just like Terry talked about it in his presentation. Parents, as superintendents, we see legislators. I know, shocker. We're at a meeting today saying, all right, what next is going to be coming from our legislators, because it does add stress to our job. Workload, those long hours, we are on call 24/7, it feels like. Even when you take a week-long vacation, how often are you checking your emails or checking text messages? It's just hard to turn it off. So it really makes it more and more difficult. This next slide is probably the most eye-opening data that we found from this survey. So we talked about 66% of the time school leaders are feeling stress. 87% of that time it's moderate to severe. 73% of the time school leaders are surveyed said that they've experienced the stress for longer than 1 year. So again, what's going to happen there is that's going to lead to burnout. And when you get to that point of burnout, we all know that we probably start to look for something different. And then, this next piece of data, 45% of those school leaders that were surveyed said they do not see themselves in their current position within the next 5 years, and another 21% are uncertain of their future. So that's almost 2/3 of school leaders that were surveyed said they don't know for sure what they're going to be, but probably not in the same job in the next 5 years. So again, we talk about the staff shortages throughout the state from teachers. I think we're seeing that same thing when it comes to administration. So again, then we look at what can we do. So I'm going to preface this. We put some supports in place. I reached out, talked with John Spear, the chief at Grantwood AEA, because he was also looking at ways to support school leaders. So we partnered together to look at what could we do to support school leaders. And so what we were able to do is partner with a company called Covenant Family Solutions out of Cedar Rapids. And where I came up with partnering with this group is we actually were looking for ways to support our staff coming out of COVID. And when I reached out to our health insurance company to talk about the EAP that we have, there really wasn't a whole lot there for us. So started doing some research on different companies, reached out to Covenant, and we put in a pretty comprehensive employment assistance program for our staff. So then we looked at, right, what could we do for school leaders working through Covenant? And so this partnership was created. And within this concierge program that they have, and right now it's, we are piloting it with our superintendents with the goal of hitting all of our school leaders here in the next couple of years. But what every superintendent has access to at this point in time is monthly counseling sessions with a therapist, self-help guides where they could actually work through some issues themselves. There's mental wellness workshops. There's 24/7 access to a therapist. So if they're struggling at midnight, they have a panic attack or something, they have a number that they can call to and just talk to somebody. And then some other supports that I'll show you here at the end when I get onto the website. We're also looking at trying to partner with School Administrators of Iowa and ISB, looking at what are some ways that we can support all school leaders, not only in Grant Wood, but throughout the state. So that again, that is something that we're not there yet, but we're starting to take some steps towards that. Not everyone's going to have access to Covenant Family Solutions. If you're in the Grant Wood AEA, I know that Covenant's actually reached, they have a place up in Dubuque. So if you're part of Keystone, I believe they would be able to do some stuff up there. But basically, what can we do is first, what could you do as a school leader to, support not only your principals, but maybe your staff? Again, just check into your own employee assistance program. And if there's nothing there, just start digging, researching. Are there some companies out there within the, a half hour to an hour distance from your school that might be able to provide something like this? Just, as a superintendent, just have those check-ins with your principals to see how they're doing. And a lot of this is just stuff you're probably already doing. So I'm just probably reiterating some things, but I know I meet weekly. I just go in and see how they're doing. A big piece is probably talk to your board. We know how boards are shifting, but talk to your board about what can they do to help support our principals and our district leaders overall, because again, the workload is very heavy. So are there expectations that they can take off the plates of our school leaders? Again, I would say reach out to SAI. They have that Catch Life program that they've had in place for quite a while. Dana Schoen has actually just started a track at ISFLC. I actually attended that in December, and it's outstanding between her and Rick Colbitz. And so if you've not taken that one, it's on mental health. for school leaders, it's outstanding. We talk about celebrating successes at our admin meetings, doing those little things for the principals as you care. So Trent, I don't know how much time I have left, if you want me to show the website or not.
Yeah, please do briefly here.
Okay. So this is the website that we have. So when you log in, the first thing you see at the top is that 24/7 counseling support. It might not be an actual therapist, but it will, go ahead, Trent.
Can't see it, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me stop sharing and see if I can try it again here. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
So at the top there, that's the number that they can talk to. Like I was saying, it's not a 24, or it might not be a therapist at 12 o'clock at night, but there will be somebody who's working towards that degree that they can at least talk to. Just when you come to the home page, again, you can see the different aspects of it. There's different courses that you can take. There's news and research based on different mental health topics that you want to. It's not just about mental health, but you see that it does have health related topics to it as well. So over here, we go to the news and research. They'll have different, maybe, there we go. Topics, sorry. I'm just going to give a minute here that you can look at again at the top there. If you want something on anxiety, you go to anxiety and it'll give you some, it's a little slow here, I apologize. Topics on anxiety, there we go. And things that you can do. Financial resources, the self-help guide. That is something I've actually taken some of the self-help courses. When I took it on, just be completely honest, was on depression because again, I was just in a bad place at one time. So again, it just kind of gives you some things to be thinking about that you can help yourself. Just like Trent was saying, it's us that can help ourselves, and maybe we can help others by going through these courses as well. You have the financial, the legal, there's nutrition and fitness. One of the things I like is you can ask experts a question. You put the question to them, they'll answer it, and then they'll actually create like a short video with an answer to your question. So like I said, there's just a lot of different things here. I think one of the issues that we're dealing with right now is we as school leaders, we always think we have to be the tough people. We always have to be there to support others, that we can't be vulnerable ourselves. So we actually had this conversation yesterday at our superintendents group of, we have to take care of ourselves. We can't always have that shield of armor on. Sometimes it's just understanding that, hey, let's help ourselves so again we can help others. But I think we're seeing more and more usage. I know as with our staff EAP, we had a 12% usage rate last year, which was really, really high. But it just goes to show you that there are a lot of people that are struggling, and what we want to do is try to do what we can to support them so that they don't want to leave the profession. They don't want to go to somewhere else. So with that, I think I'll go ahead and stop. And
yeah, no, thanks, Marty. If you will you throw that link to that website that may be new to some folks in the chat as well, and we'll make sure it's part of our recap as well.
Yep, I will do that.
Interesting statistics, again, that you shared with the group today, kind of an eye-opener around retention and support as well. I want to close today, obviously talking about our next webinar as well, and stay on for questions and responses. But I also want to add in regard to the retention, I did a study a couple years ago at Drake myself, copying actually Dr. Dave Else from UNI when he did a study on principal retention in Iowa specifically. My thoughts around that, my hypothesis was that it was actually the number one reason people may think to leave at that time, 7 years ago, pre-pandemic, was maybe salary and benefits, larger school system. I will just cut to the chase and tell you, I was a bit surprised to know at that time, and probably still true, for principals in Iowa, the number one factor on retention was the support that they're getting from their administrative team and superintendent. That was number one, actually. And I'm running into that as I recruit folks as well, that loyalty, which is a great thing. And again, when I shared that data on managers and their effect around 70%. It reiterates that. Number two is actually their family commitment in the community. So that also tells me that if they're engaged, not just them on the job, but their families engaged in school, the community, spouse likes the community. That was the second factor. And third was salary and benefits. So as we think about retention, supporting our staff as well, I would just offer that, because I work with a lot of boards that think it comes down to salary and benefits, and it's not always the case anymore. Matter of fact, I think it's less and less. So I wanted to offer that today. Marty, Terry, Sue, Susan, thank you for being our speakers today. We will certainly have a follow-up discussion, and I hope a lot of these resources and practical points and solutions are valuable to the audience. Our March Friday focus is going to be around parent engagement and support for the school system and for their own children. So March 3rd will be our next Friday focus, and I hope you can also tune in then.